I've come across a video, and I'll play the video here in a minute. I just want to read a few of the things that are on the screen during the video. So in this video, it takes place in Utah, where the United Nations take over one of the buildings in Utah and turn it into international territory, being a United Nations compound. This is a building that is in Utah, and they turn it into international territory, taking away the rights that American citizens have within this property in the state of Utah. It's really insane. And the United Nations, which is a New World Order organization, I mean, their whole entire platform is uniting the world under one rule of law, taking away and stripping away the individual rights of nations, of sovereign nations, and putting in place their own United Nations decrees, which no one votes upon. I'm pretty sure no one votes on these people who are on the United Nations board. They're just put in there by people who share the same agenda that they want the United Nations to push. So I'm going to read a few of these things that the United Nations promotes. These are in their articles, in their documents, in their rules. And so the first one is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 29, number 3, says these rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations, therefore taking away the individual rights of the sovereign nation that the United Nations is within, such as our right to free speech, whatever right, the right to not be searched without a cause. Our Constitution, the United Nations takes these rights away when you're in an area that's controlled by the United Nations. That's Article 29.3, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it doesn't get any better. Let me read a few more of these. Here's something published in 1995 by the UN-funded Commission on Global Governance. It says, we strongly endorse community initiatives to encourage the disarming of civilians. So no surprise there. Here's another doozy. United Nations Habitat 1 Conference Report from 1976, private land ownership contributes to social injustice. Public control of land use is therefore indispensable. It gets worse. Here's something that was in a publication of the United Nations. It says, in order to stabilize world population, it is necessary to eliminate 350,000 people a day. It's a horrible thing to say, but it's just as bad not to say. Just going along with the same Georgia Guidestones, the same open plans that these people have openly admitted to time and time again. Georgia Guidestones, Bill Gates, Rockefeller, all these different people time and time again have talked about the depopulation of the world. Of course, them and their families and all these people who say such things are not the ones on the list. So there you go. And like I said, the United Nations, just obviously in the name, United Nations, uniting all the nations under one world government, is their exact plan. And their exact plan does not involve the right to individual freedoms, individual private land ownership. Even sovereign nations or nations that have constitution and laws and decrees, when you're in a United Nations controlled area, those are all stripped away, and you now fall under this United Nations complete New World Order control grid that nobody votes on, that nobody has a say on. They all do it on their own. No one elects these people. No one sets this stuff in place. They come out and do it on their own will, and we all know what their own will is, to financially gain them and their families and control the rest of the world under their own absolutely tyrannical laws. And here we have in Utah where they take over a building, therefore stripping away the rights of these people and this journalist and people who are there. Absolutely unreal. So I'll play the video here right now, and I will leave the link to the video in the description, as well as a link to, I just saw that Lisa Haven posted a video on the United Nations and the New World Order that they are setting up and that they are, and more of their laws and bills that they put in place to completely strip away the individual rights of sovereign nations and sovereign people. Here's the video. Thanks for watching. God bless.
Is it okay you turn off the camera and then I speak?
Oh, turn off the camera?
Yeah.
Do I not have a right to have the camera?
I'm not giving you permission to check my face, so...
Okay, are you a public servant?
I'm
or?
United Nations Security Officer.
Okay.
Okay.
This is my city, and so I have a right to film.
This is United Nations compound?
On the United Nations compound?
Yes.
This is a compound?
Yeah. Since Sunday evening, we took over this compound. This is international territory. When you step outside, it's U.S. Here is international territory. This is UN compound.
The United Nations claims to be the champion of your human rights. Here they are boasting about how they love the freedom of the press. But notice that in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, they claim the power to deny you any of your rights at their discretion if it doesn't fit their agenda. There were thousands of cameras filming the United Nations that day, activists, journalists, and citizens. But as soon as their security saw that one activist was speaking against the UN's agenda, she was targeted, just like the UN's Declaration on Human Rights says that they have a loophole for. Let's recap what you just saw. The UN set up a compound in the middle of Salt Lake City. The UN says they took over the building. The UN stated that the taxpayer-funded Salt Lake Palace was now international territory where U.S. rights don't apply. The UN stated that the United States was outside the doors of the Salt Palace, and the UN, who at best should have been a guest of Salt Lake, instead acted like an invader and denied a U.S. citizen their First Amendment rights. Should the United Nations be allowed to simply claim territory in the middle of the United States and deny any U.S. citizen any of their inalienable rights? The evidence is clear that the United Nations' claims of defending human rights is a complete farce. They have demonstrated their intent to rule, along with their complete lack of respect for our own citizens, for all to see, right here on our own soil. That's not all, but this has all been brought to you by your fellow elected leaders and other prominent Utah officials. The Utah legislature actually paid for them to come here and defended this international compound with your tax dollars. The mayor of Salt Lake City welcomed them with open arms, and the executives of Utah Valley University invited them here shortly after they officially signed up to promote the UN's agenda through the university. Do you know that the United Nations is already writing and passing laws that the state of Utah and Utah's cities are putting into law on behalf of the UN? If you're upset that the Utah legislature and the city of Salt Lake invited this organization to come and trample on your rights, please go right now to UnitedNationsUtah.com and sign the petition, and then share this video on all of your social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more bombshell reports about the United Nations in Utah and what you can do to take back your local government.